Starting at number 10, the Cessna A-37 Dragonfly. This aircraft started life as a militarized version of the T-37 Tweed trainer, which the United States Air Force eventually adapted into a light attack platform that flew combat missions over Vietnam. It runs two General Electric J85 turbojet engines, producing a combined thrust of around 6,000 pounds, and it reaches a top speed of approximately 816 km per hour. The Dragonfly is genuinely rare in civilian hands. Only a small number have ever been properly demilitarized and transferred to private ownership, which is what earns it a spot on this list. Expect to pay upwards of $300,000 for a project aircraft, and considerably more for an airworthy example. Part support is limited, and qualified mechanics are not easy to find. But if you want something that almost nobody else on the planet owns privately, this is a serious candidate. The de Havilland Vampire is one of the earliest jet fighters ever built, entering service with the Royal Air Force in 1945. Its twin-boom layout and short central nacelle give it one of the most distinctive profiles in aviation history. A single de Havilland Goblin turbojet pushes it to around 882 km per hour at altitude. Civilian examples sell in the $300,000 to $800,000 range, depending heavily on condition. The Vampire's age is both its appeal and its challenge. Spare parts require specialist sourcing, and finding an instructor with genuine type experience is difficult. But it is a real artifact of the early jet age, and flying one places you in the same cockpit that introduced a generation of pilots to jet propulsion. For a collector with patience and available budget, it remains a compelling option. Italy's Aermacchi produced one of the most widely used jet trainer families of the Cold War. The MB-326 entered service in the early 1960s and was eventually operated by over a dozen air forces. The more refined MB-339 came later and served with the Italian Air Force's Frecce Tricolori display team. Both variants are powered by Rolls-Royce Viper turbojets and seat two in tandem. Parts availability is reasonable through specialist vendors, and the global operator network means a decent support community still exists. These are honest, capable training jets, not the most visually dramatic aircraft on this list, but among the most practical to own and maintain over the long term. For a buyer prioritizing reliability of support over outright prestige, the Aermacchi family makes a solid case. The SIAI-Marchetti S.211 is an Italian single-engine jet trainer developed in the late 1970s and used by several air forces in Asia and South America. It is powered by a Pratt & Whitney Canada JT15D turbofan, producing around 2,500 pounds of thrust, giving it a top speed of approximately 667 km per hour. Civilian examples are relatively rare, but do appear on the market, typically priced between $300,000 and $700,000. The JT15D engine is a meaningful advantage here. It is the same power plant used across a range of business jets, which means certified maintenance facilities and spare parts are considerably easier to locate than for many other aircraft on this list. The S211 is not the most dramatic jet visually, but its engine support infrastructure makes the ownership experience far more manageable in practice. The Fouga Magister is a French twin-engine jet trainer, first flown in 1952 and one of the more unusual-looking aircraft on this list. It features a distinctive butterfly V-tail configuration and a straight wing, giving it an immediately recognizable profile in the air. Two Turbomeca Marlboro turbojet engines push it to a top speed of around 715 km per hour. The Magister was France's first domestically produced jet trainer and served with several European and Middle Eastern air forces through the Cold War. Civilian examples sell roughly between $200,000 and $500,000. The V-tail is not merely cosmetic. It produces handling characteristics that differ from conventional configurations, and a proper checkout with an experienced instructor is essential. Parts sourcing has become more difficult as the global fleet ages, but the owner community remains active. The BAE Hawk is a British advanced jet trainer that entered service with the Royal Air Force in 1976 and has been operated by over a dozen nations. It is best known internationally as the aircraft flown by the Red Arrow's display team. A single Rolls-Royce A-4 turbofan gives it a top speed of around 1028 km per hour, and it seats two in tandem under a long bubble canopy. Finding a civilian Hawk is genuinely difficult. The type remains in active military service globally, which limits how many airframes reach the surplus market. When examples do appear, prices typically run from $600,000 to $2 million. Operating costs are significant, but for a buyer willing to invest the time in sourcing and the money in running costs, the Hawk is one of the most capable and high-performance aircraft on this entire list. The Alpha Jet was a joint French and German development, entering service in the late 1970s as both a trainer and a light attack aircraft. Germany retired its fleet in the 1990s, releasing a meaningful number of airframes into the civilian market. It is twin-engined, with two Snecma Turbomeca Lasak turbofans and seats two in tandem. Top speed is around 1000 km per hour. Airworthy examples typically sell between $500,000 and $1,200,000, with operating costs running roughly $2,000 to $3,000 per flight hour. That is not cheap, but for a genuine twin-engine military jet with real performance and a growing support network, the numbers are defensible. The Flying Bull's aerobatic team's long association with the Alpha Jet has helped raise its profile significantly in the civilian market. The hawkerhunter is, by most accounts, one of the most elegant jet aircraft ever produced. It entered service with the Royal Air Force in 1954 and was designed by Sidney Cam, the same engineer responsible for the Hurricane. A single Rolls-Royce Avon turbojet propels it past 1,100 km per hour. Most civilian examples are the two-seat T7 or T8 trainer variants, typically priced between $500,000 and $1,500,000. Ownership is demanding. Parts availability is tightening as the global fleet dwindles, and maintaining airworthiness requires access to a shrinking pool of specialist engineers. None of that has reduced demand. The Hunter remains one of the most sought-after jets in the civilian warbird market, and its combination of genuine speed, Cold War history, and unmistakable swept-wing presence gives it a reputation that very few aircraft on this list can match. The Douglas A-4 Skyhawk has one of the most significant combat records in United States naval aviation history. The TA-4J is the two-seat trainer variant and the version most commonly found in civilian hands. A Pratt & Whitney J52 turbojet gives it a top speed approaching Mach 0.94. Subsonic, but at the upper end of what most warbird pilots will ever experience in private ownership. Airworthy examples typically sell between $500,000 and $1,500,000, depending on hours and restoration depth. Maintenance is complex, and the aircraft's systems were originally designed around carrier operations, which adds a layer of difficulty to civilian upkeep. Qualified mechanics who know the type are not easy to find. But in terms of genuine combat heritage, combined with real performance in a two-seat airframe, the TA-4J makes a very strong case for its position on this list. If there is a clear starting point for civilian jet ownership, this is it. The Aero L-39 Albatros is a Czech-built Cold War trainer produced in over 2,900 airframes, which is the primary reason it dominates the civilian market today. That production volume means parts are still findable, the global owner community is large, and instructors for type checkouts are not difficult to locate. The L-39 is powered by an Ivchenko AI-25 turbofan, producing around 3,790 pounds of thrust, with a top speed of approximately 750 km per hour. It seats two in tandem, making training flights with an instructor genuinely practical. Prices start around $150,000 for project aircraft and reach $500,000 or more for fully restored examples with modern avionics. No other jet on this list offers the same combination of accessibility, community support, and cost of entry. For most buyers, the L-39 is the logical place to start, and many never feel the need to move on from it.